Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur with your host, Steve Kidd, third-generation minister and 30-year business coach. Listen in as amazing, world-changing authors, speakers, and coaches share their struggles and victories. And hear from best-selling authors' insight into how you too can live your life as a thriving entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur. Thanks for being with me here today as we talk about where are you meant to make impact. I have 4 great, amazing guests. I've even opted to limit our commercial breaks today so that we can really jam-pack you with knowledge, because I know each one of you wants to make the difference that only you can make. And sometimes all of us struggle with, where can I make that impact? How can I make that impact? What is the best way to make the difference that only I can make in this world? We all think about that. We often even find ourselves struggling with that. But I want to help you really take a look at where you are meant to make an impact today. Give you some different types of suggestions, show you how others are making an impact so that you too can really do the thing that only you can do in this world, so that you can thrive in all that you do, maximizing while it's called today. I really want that for you. I'm so excited for what we're going to go through in this next hour as we look at where are you meant to make an impact here on Thriving Entrepreneur. With that said, let's jump right into our very first guest. Join me in welcoming Brenton Thompson. Hey, Brenton, how you doing?
Hey, doing good. How about yourself?
I am doing really good, thanks. So first off, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
So I'm Brenton, and I'm a digital marketing expert, and so I have a digital marketing agency called Twiby, and so I focus on Google Ads, Facebook ads, SEO, a little bit of email marketing as well. And then outside of that, huge fan of basketball, so NBA, playing sports, etc. And family and friends are a big part of my life.
I love that. So for somebody who's been living under a rock or whatever, they don't know what digital marketing is. Explain to us in brief what that is.
Yeah, so digital marketing is using online tools to basically promote your business. So that can be in the form of trying to generate revenue, or maybe just want brand awareness. Maybe you need leads for your business, but basically just using a number of different online tactics to promote your business. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a business. You can be an individual, an influencer, but just using different tools online.
So what is the key to effectively marketing yourselves online these days? I mean, it's changed so much over the last few years. What's working right now?
Oh, so that kind of depends on your business type. So I think for like e-commerce, what I've seen for the clients that I run, digital marketing campaigns for, is Facebook ads tends to work pretty well for e-commerce. I have a client, they're called Cocalero. They have a collaboration with Resident Evil. So they have it's a spirit. It's like a 29% ABV alcohol spirit brand. And so we're running Facebook ads, and we're getting like a 300% return on ad spend. So for every $1 we spend, we get $3 back. So that tends to work well for e-commerce. And then if you're trying to drive leads, then I'm getting great results inside of Google Ads for my clients. So it kind of depends on your needs.
That is really cool to hear that somebody's actually having good luck with Facebook and Google Ads, because most of the people I've talked to, you just mentioned that and they begin screaming.
Yeah, I think after the pandemic, so during the pandemic, stipends were being given out to like the average person. Business loans were given out and then forgiven. Like unemployment, the government boosted unemployment. So there's a lot of like disposable money just kind of floating around in the economy. And it was just a great time for everyone. And I definitely can feel that space has kind of not come to an end, but it's kind of slowed down a little bit.
So what is the one thing that you wish people understood about, marketing their business, especially online, before they came to you?
Yeah, the number one thing is always, it takes time, right? Like I've had clients where they basically wanted to see results in 2 weeks, and I tell them, I always try to set the tone that it's going to take, at least a month for us to get some good data here. And once we get that first month of data, like we have to keep optimizing. It's going to get better and better. At least in theory, it should. And so, sometimes, uh, you know, people get impatient, I guess you could say. But you can't build a great sales team in 2 weeks. You can't build an HR department in 2 weeks, and you can't launch a high performing Google Ads slash Facebook ads campaigns in 2 weeks as well.
Well, with that said, then how long is realistic? How long should a person be looking at, for them to start seeing results?
Yeah, so I would say in the first 2 weeks, like you get your baseline numbers, and it depends on how much you're spending. But and then after the 2 weeks, you get another 2 weeks kind of optimize, and then that's like the beginning of understanding like what can we expect at our very like much like our very lowest form, I guess you could say, because the whole account is in its infancy. And so the ad accounts in learning mode most likely, or maybe you just exited learning mode, so you're just hitting your efficiency. But I would say give it about 3 months, and you'll have a pretty good idea of like the person who's managing your ad account. They have a good idea of like what's going on. They have a good feel for the account, and then the machine learning and algorithms also have a good feel for your account.
You mentioned it depends on your ad spend. What's realistic? What should a person be thinking about spending in daily, weekly, monthly, whatever ad spend?
Yeah, I would say 2,000 on the low end. If you're gonna do 2,000, I would just do one um, channel, right? So a channel is, for example, like Google Ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads. Each of those are channels. And so I would say do one channel, and then at that ad spend, no more than 3 campaigns. Maybe even three, might be pushing it. Do 2 campaigns to really try to consolidate all of your learnings. And to get learnings, you have to spend budget. And so you don't want your budget to be spread over too many campaigns.
And so the two campaigns are typically going to run for the whole month or a couple of days, or how long does usually, $1,000 per campaign? How long should a person expect that's going to last?
Yeah. You should let them run evergreen, right? And then have like a consistent daily budget. So if you, let's just say hypothetically for easy math, $1,000 per month per campaign. There's 2 campaigns. You would take 1,000 divided by 30, and then take that number, and then that's your daily spend, and then let it stay on that daily spend for both of your campaigns.
Okay, just making sure we were both on the same page as far as math goes and stuff. And, because I know some people that are spending, $2,000 a day and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure that the listeners understood what you were talking. So, what's the downside? What happens if, what's the possibility that you spend $2,000 a month for the next 3 to 6 months? What's the possibility that you'll end up with nothing?
Oh yeah, that's very possible. But I would say the main reason you end up with nothing is it could be inside of the ad account. Maybe there's a couple levers you could have pulled. Maybe you could have wrote better ad copy. But I've seen the best results when you have a really excellent place for the person to land, which is your website. And so if you get your website dialed in and have a really strong brand presence and brand positioning, then you most likely won't end up with nothing. And then I guess the silver lining of it all is that let's say you didn't make a lot of money, because that's usually most businesses' goals. But you will have learned something new. And so that maybe that's worth something, maybe not, but you won't necessarily come out with anything, I would say, depending on how you look at it, based on your perspective.
Absolutely. So, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Everybody hears somebody like you come on and they're like, all right, So I got to run 2 campaigns and I need to do $1,000 a campaign. And they're just going to jump into Facebook and do it themselves because they have a quote unquote e-commerce site, or they think they do. Um, why is it that they should use a service like yours rather than just doing it themselves?
Yeah, so obviously using a service like myself versus yourself, you would have to pay someone like me to manage your ad account, and that costs money. But and then on your side, on the, like the individual side, it's free, so you save money there. But I'm sure when most people first log into like Google Ads and it's like there's all these like options and campaign optimization and you like there's like a drop down window and there's a million things to select. You don't know what your daily budget should be. You don't have experience writing ad copy. And there's 10 other factors to consider, right? And so when you launch your campaign, you might get subpar results. And in that time that you spent the 2000, you could have made maybe 6,000, and that would have covered the cost of someone like me, and you would have made money. So I think it comes back to like just your return off of what you spent on ads.
I love that. So, uh, how can a person who would like your help, how can they work with you?
Yeah, so I'm giving out a free consultation. So if you just have questions about digital marketing, or just want to know pricing or more about our services, I have a Calendly link which I can share. You can put it into my, I guess my recording notes after, and anyone can click that link, and it'll take you into my calendar. And more than happy to talk about this in more detail.
I love that. And I do encourage everybody reach out to Brenton. You are going to want help running your ad account. Don't try to do it yourself. Yes, he will charge you a little bit, but it'll be totally worth it. Trust me, take my word for it. You want to use a professional like Brenton to do that for you and not try to go it alone. Brenton, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
People need to know who you are, know where you are, and know what you do so that they can interact with you and they can be part of you making the impact that you're meant to make in this world. I'm going to go right into our next guest. We want to talk some more about where are you meant to make an impact here on Thriving Entrepreneur. Here we go. Join me in welcoming Michael Cardiman. Hey, Michael, how you doing today?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm doing great, thanks. Tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Yeah, I am a father of four living in Connecticut outside of New York City now, but spent about 9 years in the Bay Area. And I am the CEO, managing partner of Forum Ventures, which I started about 9 years ago. We can go into the background of that, but have spent most of my career in tech and startups um, and yeah, just kind of building Forum now.
So tell us about Forum and what it does.
Yeah, so we've kind of three parts of the business. So when I started 9 years ago, we were a B2B SaaS focused accelerator, which means we kind of put often first check into founders with an idea, some early version of a product, and then we were very hands-on, almost like an extension of the founding team, to help them kind of get from that very early stages to their first like kind of pre-seed or seed round. So we're now in our fourth accelerator fund. We've worked with 300 plus companies through the accelerator. And now in addition to the accelerator, we wanted to be able to support founders even slightly earlier and slightly later. So we now also have a seed fund where we can write kind of larger checks into that first like $1 to $3 million round. And then we also have a venture studio where we have a team of people that we start companies from scratch where we come up with an idea, we start a company, and then we pull a CEO in to run the company after we've validated it and funded it.
So how does a person know if their company is something that would be, worth being in an accelerator like yours?
Yeah, I think it's really about the aspirations you have for the business and then how big you think the market opportunity is. So we're looking for companies that we think can create kind of venture scale outcomes. And what does that mean? Because that's this like, big thing that VCs say, but like, what does it actually mean? So the way a lot of funds will think about it, which is like just kind of a rubric founders can kind of think through is is like, if I invest in this company, can it return my entire fund? So if you're a, simple math, like you're a $10 million fund and you write a 500K check into a company at a $10 million valuation, how big does that company need to get to in order to return a $10 million fund? If you factor in dilution, like it probably needs to be, 20x with no dilution, factor in dilution, like 40x type of return. So if you invested at 10 million, like, is a $400 million outcome a possibility? Is the market big enough to support that? Is, whatever. And then as you keep raising and like raise a series A, and now you're raising at 50 or 100 million and it's a $1 billion fund, like the math just gets that much harder. So I think you just need to decide, like, does your company require if you raise capital, can you move quicker? And is the market opportunity big enough such that you can create those sort of size outcomes if everything goes the way the way you hope they go? And it's okay if not. And like, there's a lot of great businesses that can be built without having to rely on venture, where you can raise debt or just bootstrap it. So yeah, I think it's more just around like what type of business you want to build and what type of company you want to build. And then is there a big enough market opportunity to support, the size outcomes that VC firms would be looking for?
So, especially when you have shows like Shark Tank and stuff like that now, everybody thinks their idea is a multi-million-dollar idea and that they should get paid 20x, what their revenue is right now. What's really realistic, or better yet, do you help people evaluate whether the idea that they have really is what they think it is?
Yeah, we do. So we're very focused on B2B software companies. So we don't look at anything consumer, and like certainly have no expertise there. But yeah, in the software world, like you can, we get a lot of people who come in and they'll say, they're like broadly in kind of, let's say like CRM or some big category, and they'll say like, well, spend on CRM is, tens of billions of dollars, like it's a big market. And so we'll work with them to figure out like, okay, let's take a more thoughtful approach around how do you like, what size is your market actually? Like, who is your customer? Who's buying this? How many of them are there, and what are they willing to pay? And do much more of like a bottoms up kind of analysis. And then, see what the market size looks like there, and then look at like, okay, if you get embedded in these customers, and let's say your contracts are 25K a year, and that's like a $500 million total revenue opportunity, like that's not big enough. So from a venture lens standpoint, so then you start to look at like, okay, once you're in with these customers, are there ways that you can increase the contract value over time by either adding more features or selling into different, areas of the business or whatever that feel like a logical extension of what you're doing, where you can kind of land and expand and get average contract values way up, and therefore then get the market size up. But we try to work with founders to take a much more thoughtful kind of bottoms up approach to looking at how big their market is, by actually looking at like, who is their customer and what are they willing to pay, and how many of those customers are there in the world or in the country or whatever geo they're going after.
Now, this question may be a little bit to my own personal question, but how bleeding edge, how far out into what is coming but isn't here yet, is really realistic for a person to start, getting investment for and beginning to build?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we invest in some companies where it is not a technical advantage that they have. Like it's not like they're building some novel technology that's new in the world. It may just be incrementally better than incumbents, and they have a distribution edge somehow, or we underwrite to like a lot of different things. So we're not always looking for like bleeding edge technology. With that said, I do think occasionally we will look at companies where it's like fairly deep, either like applied AI, machine learning tech. And it'll be interesting to see how that evolves now with all the explosion of kind of Chat GPT and OpenAI and everything over the last few weeks. It's been pretty wild. Like even internally, we've got it like writing full memos for us now. Like it's pretty wild how quickly it's evolving. But yeah, I mean, I think they need to have a clear understanding of like, how hard was it for them to build what they're building? Like, what is the barrier to entry around it? and how much capital are they going to need if it's not fully built yet, or they need more data, or they need more traction. Like, what is it going to take to kind of get to adding the amount of value they want to get to through the technology they're building? And are we the right capital partner to provide that? Some companies are just too capital intensive for us to make sense, and you need to kind of go try to find bigger investors who can write bigger checks if it's like really deep tech that's going to take years of R&D to build out. But we've worked with a lot of like highly technical founders where they have some unique edge on the technology side, either from like a data moat they had that they used to train models, or that they had access to that was like, maybe harder to get. Or it could just be like PhD, like we've invested in multiple companies where it's like PhD students from, Waterloo or wherever, where they like in some great engineering school where they spend years kind of building out a thesis and testing and iterating and building a product. And so there's like a lot of R&D work in there, sometimes funded through their university work, where they then can kind of commercialize a product, and that has an edge from a technology standpoint. So we certainly look at deals like that as well. But yeah, it's hard to kind of project out years in advance because technology kind of shifts and changes so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So you as a company pretty well are working with the person who can at least build the beta version of it, or a model version of it. You're not really dealing with people who are just idea people, but then need to bring in technical people and stuff to actually bring their dream to life.
We occasionally will take a solo founder who does not have a tech co-founder on board yet, if we don't view the product or technology execution risk to be a high one. So if like the CEO has some unfair advantage, whether it's a distribution advantage or a domain expertise advantage, they have a good sense of what they need to build, and we feel like the technology is not it's never trivial, but it's not like overly complicated to build, and we don't think there's a lot of risk around that. We will occasionally make an exception and then help them find a tech co-founder to build it out, and invest in that. But yeah, I think ideally we would love for a founding team to have someone on the team who's kind of building the product or has already built a version of the product. Now the studio we have is different, where like we have an in-house CTO and head of design and front end engineer and everything, where we come up with a lot of the ideas. We occasionally will get someone who will come in with an idea, but we come up with the ideas, we validate, and then we'll pull someone in who's non-technical to run the company for us while we build the MVP and product, and then eventually hand it off to and transition it to an in-house engineering team. But yeah, through the accelerator and the seed fund, we will occasionally do invest in a company with a non-technical founder only initially, if we view it as a low technical risk.
Okay. So for the people that are listening that think this might be them you're talking about, be specific for us. What kind of people would you like to contact you?
I would like anyone who has, we do a lot of the founders we invest in have what we would call like really good founder market fit. So they've been in a market for a while, have some like nuanced understanding of their market, and then have a clear kind of concise view on how their market's evolving and like why they think they can build a product in that evolving market that can win deals and get customers and be a big company. And then just being like wildly kind of ambitious and curious. And so that can be as nuanced as like we've done a lot of vertical SaaS companies where it's someone who spent a bunch of time in like the restaurant supply space, or in, I was talking to a company earlier who's like worked with like a bunch of master riggers and crane operators, and like they're building technology specifically for that space. Like he has deep domain experience in that space, and like it's a very nuanced space that not a lot of companies are going after. So we look for like founder market fit where they have like very specific experience in a market and a nuanced view of that market that may be unique because of their experience, and then have the ambition to want to kind of move that industry forward with like a next gen version of software that can help it run more efficiently, and and then have like big ambitions around how big it can get.
All right. And for the person who's like, that's me, how do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, I mean, we have a open form on our website. They can pitch us through that. I'm on Twitter at MG Cardamone. My email is just Mike at Forum VC. Pretty easy to get a hold of and find online.
So your website is forum.vc.
No, it's forumvc.com.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mike, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
What a great way to take all the things you've learned in the industry and then pass it on to the next group and help empower the next group of people to do the things that they need to do to live as a thriving entrepreneur. That is a great way to make an impact. I look forward to seeing and hearing the way you're going to make an impact. Feel free to hashtag Thriving Entrepreneur and let me know what ways you are meant to make an impact. While you're doing that, we are going to take a quick commercial break here on Thriving Entrepreneur. Don't go away.
If you're an author who's on a mission, stand out with your brand out. Check this out, guys. Yep, everything's marketing, and marketing is everything. Your existing book can become a best-selling book, or even, hey, like mine, a #1 international best-selling book in 5 days. Listen, if your business isn't known by everybody, it's obscurity, and that's death, right? The same thing is true for your book. If you're not happy with the way your book is performing, you got that far and then it just fell off the face of the planet kind of feeling, go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Schedule a talk with Steve. It's risk-free, it's guaranteed, it's proven. We've done it thousands of times. What are you waiting for? Yes, yourbestsellertoday.com. This time next week, you could have a beautiful seal on your book and get the attention that you deserve. Reach the people that you came to serve. Come on now. What are you waiting for? Grab a pen. Here we go. All you got to do is book a call. Yourbestsellertoday.com. Go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Book a talk with Steve. It's proven. It's guaranteed. It's going to happen. All you have to do is say yes to your destiny.
Welcome back to Thriving Entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today as we're talking about where are you meant to make an impact. We've talked with two great guests that are definitely making an impact in this world. And now we want to move on to another couple of guests. Again, we're going to go limited commercial interruptions here and just talk with the guests and talk about the subject of where are you meant to make an impact here on Thriving Entrepreneur. Here we go. Join me in welcoming Lachey McDonald. How are you doing today, Lee?
I am doing great. Thanks, Steve. How are you?
I'm good. Tell us how you actually pronounce your last name so that people can start the drinking game.
Absolutely. I've heard just about every variation too. I have my husband to thank for that. So my full name is Lachey McDonough, and I am the founder of Coach with Clarity.
Perfect. Tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Yes. So I believe that powerful coaches can create such an impact on not just their individual clients' lives, but in their communities and in the world. And so I believe that so strongly that I've devoted my career to supporting people develop their coaching mastery and then also their business skills, because many coaches also run their own businesses. So I have programs that are accredited by the International Coaching Federation to help people become coaches and to retain their credentials so they can stay coaches.
I love that. So what is the difference between an accredited coach and a not accredited coach?
Yes. Oh, that is such a good question, Steve. It really means that someone who has a coaching credential or certification has completed some sort of training so that they have a deep understanding of the core competencies behind the art of coaching. I will say, as with many professions, there are wonderful non-certified or non-credentialed coaches, and there are some not so great credentialed coaches. So a credential certainly is not a guarantee by any means, but it is a sign that this person has completed training and education around coaching. And so ideally, it communicates to the public that this is someone who's invested in their training, who understands the core philosophies of coaching, and who is ready to serve.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I'm just old enough that I remember when, the only people that were coaches had sports teams. And we
Yes.
called them mentors and things like that.
Hmm.
So I'm still, some days I still shy away from, even though people sometimes call me their coach, I kind of shy away from that phrase.
I really identify with that. And to be honest with you, it took me almost 18 months before I felt comfortable even calling myself a coach for much the same reason. Before becoming a coach, I was a psychotherapist for about 15 years. And I'll be honest with you, in the therapy community, especially 10 or 15 years ago, people who called themselves coaches were not particularly viewed well by therapists. And so I carried a lot of baggage actually around even calling myself a coach. But then I realized if people are looking for coaching, they're going to be looking for coaches. And so maybe I should start calling myself one.
Absolutely. It's a very good point. So, what makes a person, and I know you can't tell us all of it because we don't have that kind of time, but what is one thing that makes a person a good coach?
I believe a good coach understands that the process of listening is multi-leveled and it goes beyond just active listening. It even goes beyond deep listening. It is a practice of balancing what we are hearing from our clients, the actual content of what they're saying, and reading that along with the unspoken content, the tone and the energy, and then at the same time balancing that with our own internal guidance, our intuitive cues, what we're picking up on as well. When a coach is able to deeply connect with their client and listen on all levels, I really believe that is where deep connection happens. And it's through that deep connection then that we can in turn ask relevant, powerful, engaging questions to elicit some deeper thought in our client and ultimately to help them uncover their own solutions and strategies.
I love that. So I'm sure somebody is saying, yeah, but that's easy for you because, you have a therapist background. So you already knew all those kind of things. What about the person who doesn't have any of that kind of training? Can they still do that?
I believe they absolutely can. I believe if you have a heart for service, if you believe in people's capacity to change and to create change, and you're willing to learn, then you have the makings of a really powerful coach. And I will say that while in many ways my background as a therapist served me and continues to serve me as a coach, I also had some unlearning to do because coaching is a very different approach than therapy. And I remember my very first session with my mentor coach when I coached her, and then she provided me with some feedback. I really thought I was killing it. I thought I was doing great. And at the end of the session, she said, "Oh, Lee, that was a wonderful therapy session, but we need to talk about how to make it a coaching session." And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I felt so exposed. And so I think even when you have relevant training and experience in complementary professions like therapy, there's still so much to be learned about the art of coaching. And it's one of the reasons why I do what I do at Coach with Clarity.
I love that so much. I heard a coach, actually, it was a friend of mine that used to be a therapist that transitioned to coaching. And what she said, this may or may not be true, but this is what she said, okay, was that the difference between being a therapist and calling herself now a coach was that as a coach, she could actually give people solutions and answers and help them come to, resolutions of things rather than sometimes therapy is about keeping them in therapy forever, if you know what I mean.
I have had my share of long-term therapeutic clients, that's for sure. And I take your colleague's point. I think for me, therapy was really about helping people understand the why behind their behaviors and their choices. Oftentimes, the why was centered in early experiences, some of which were traumatic. And so there needed to be some processing and some understanding around that before we could take action. What I find in coaching is that while we're still doing some internal work around mindset and beliefs, it's less about needing to heal and it's less about kind of exploring and teasing out the why, and more about the, okay, this is where we are today. Where are we going to go from here? We know all about who you are as a person and your habits and what's brought you to this point. Now, how do we optimize your performance so that you can really achieve what you're truly capable of? And sometimes that does involve providing solutions. Sometimes it involves some consultation, but I find that it's so much more effective when my clients are able to develop their own epiphanies, their own aha moments, and then start to create their own solutions. They're way more invested then than if I were to give them an option or give them an answer.
Yeah, I love that. I think it could be said from what you just said that rather than looking at the why, we're talking about what and how.
I think that's fair. I do. And I want to be clear that I know many therapists who are also very effective at looking at the what and the how. They're very solution focused, they're very future oriented. And I also know some coaches who really have a solid understanding of how our past influences are present. So I don't mean to suggest that therapists shouldn't look to the future or that coaches can't look to the past, but I think it's really more about where do we anchor our practice and what do we lead with?
Well, and in all fairness, as a sales manager, one of the ladies that I worked with, she actually told me that they were going to add to the name on the door of the company that I worked for and Steve's therapy service. So, not that I was actually a licensed therapist, but I did a lot of that too in training people. So I get it.
I can totally see that. I would imagine too in sales, it really does uncover some people's fears and their own limiting beliefs. And so as someone who's working with them, part of your job would be to help them uncover and then work through them. So that makes a lot of sense.
So, really huge question here that we're going to try to make really simple. For somebody who wants to be a coach, what is step one? What is something that they could do right now to move from wishing they were helping people to really actually beginning to successfully coach people?
I think the very first step is to educate yourself on the profession and the skills that coaches use. And the way someone chooses to do that, there are so many options. For some people, that does look like going right into a full-on certification program. But for others, maybe it looks more like listening to some coaching related podcasts, reading books about coaching and coaching skills. Perhaps it looks like working with your own coach so that you have the experience of being coached. That was so informative for my own development as a coach as well. So I would say choose a path, whichever path that's right for you, and really explore and educate yourself on what it takes to be a coach.
That's really good advice. So, talk to us specifically about the kind of training that you help people with. What are some of the kind of things that you can then bring to somebody, whether they've been coaching or they want to just get into it, that'll help them, do better, be better?
In my program, there's two main modules for our intro level coaching certification. And the first module looks at fundamental coaching skills. So in addition to what it means to listen on many levels, we're also looking at how to structure a coaching session so that it serves your clients and they're making gains at every session. We're looking at how to structure the relationship overall so we're clear on the long-term goals and we're creating an action plan to help our clients achieve those. We're looking at how we can support our clients as they make decisions. And then in the second module, I really dive into an approach that I was trained in as a therapist, actually. It's called acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT for short. And even though ACT was originally developed with therapists in mind, its principles are, in my opinion, universally applicable, and they are so well suited for coaching. So in our second module, we really look at how we can pull in the core tenets of ACT, and I define them as meaning, mindset, and mindfulness, and how we can use those 3 M's to support our clients in session so that they're able to make gains and achieve their goals outside of session.
Oh, I love that. So if you could just pre-order from all the people listening today, who are the perfect people that you would love to work with?
I absolutely love working with people who are intuitive, meaning they understand that they have that inner voice their inner wisdom, and they're willing to allow that little voice to have a seat at their decision-making table. I love working with people who are creative and innovative, who are looking for out-of-the-box solutions and strategies. I love working with people who have that heart for service, who feel called to serve and support others by using their own gifts and talents. And I'm looking for people who are willing to do their own work, because as coaches, I also believe that we should not be asking our clients to do work that we're not willing to do ourselves. And when you're in a coaching certification program, at least in my program, there's peer coaching. So not only are you coaching a peer, but you are receiving coaching as well. And so there's huge opportunities for growth. And I feel that's vital in being a masterful coach. So I'm definitely looking for someone who is willing to do their own work as well.
So I kind of asked this before, but just to be really specific for people who aren't sure yet, what can being a certified coach do for you versus just, turning over tomorrow and calling yourself a coach?
Yes, that's the right question to ask, because there's no laws against calling yourself a coach and hanging out a shingle and starting today. I would say that an advantage to being a certified coach is not only will you feel more confident in your skills and in your ability to serve your clients, but it's also a signal to your clients that, oh, this person's completed some training. They know what they're doing, so to speak. I would also say that if you are interested in pursuing corporate coaching or executive coaching, if that's the population you want to serve, then having an ICF credential really is considered a gold standard. And so that can be very helpful from a career development perspective. So I would say, yes, it absolutely helps you with marketing, but more than that, it really helps give you a stronger sense of confidence in yourself as a coach.
So for the people who are like, okay, I'm ready, I want to do it, how can they get in contact with you?
Yes, I would love to continue the conversation. You can pretty much find me everywhere at Coach with Clarity. My website is coachwithclarity.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Coach with Clarity. And you can also learn more about me at my podcast, which is, surprise, called the Coach with Clarity Podcast.
So before we go, just leave us with some good coaching, some words of encouragement for why we should do it.
I believe that when we approach people with the desire to connect and to understand, we create a ripple effect of positivity, and that is what has the potential to change the world. I believe that being heard and being seen, deeply seen and validated, that's a gift that we can give to anyone in our lives, certainly our clients, but our friends, our family, our colleagues. And when we understand how to be strong, effective coaches and to use those skills, then that's a gift that we can give others. And that's where we build connection, that's where we build understanding, and that's what changes the world.
Well, Lee, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
I've loved being here. Thanks so much for having me.
You have an impact you were meant to make. You need to do it. And if you need the help, find somebody that can coach you to be the powerful coach, the powerful person that you are, and know where are you meant to make an impact in this world so that you can live as a thriving entrepreneur. We've got one more guest for you before we're done today. And with that, we're going to jump right in. Join me in welcoming Anna Brambria. How are you doing today, Anna?
I'm doing great. How are you, Steve?
I am doing good, thanks. Tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Great question. I help people who are in career transition, who are facing what we call battered career syndrome. And I help them explore business ownership generally and franchise business ownership as an option. And I love what I do because I'm giving hope and options to people who often feel very, frankly, depressed and frustrated with their job search or their awful boss or the lack of promotions, whatever it is.
So there's so many nuances to franchising. Talk to us just a little bit about how your specialty helps fit in with franchisees.
what I do is I really get to know my clients. My specialty are those people that come to me and say, I don't know what I want to do, but I know what I don't want. And those are the people that I work with a lot of different people, but those people especially are the ones that I work best with. And we identify three things. First and foremost, we identify vision for their future. What does that look like? What's important to them? What do they want to do? What do they want more of or less of? Oftentimes they're sick of traveling, they're sick of making money for other people, whatever it is. So what is that vision that they want? And then what's that fire in the belly that again goes back to the having too much, having unpleasant bosses, being promised promotions that never come through. I had a client once say, I am so sick of flying coach while my bosses are flying on personal jets. And I love that. I love that image. And I help them identify their transferable skills. And we do that really over a series of conversations. And at all times, I'm a coach. So at all times, I'm on the same side of the table as my clients. The only thing I care about is that they learn and get clearer on what they're looking for. I'm not a broker. Nothing against brokers. They're a great group of people, but that's not who I am. My specialty is getting to know my clients and helping them figure out what's best for them. And then after I've had a series of conversations and know better what they're looking for, then I can go to my database, and we've got more than 200 different franchises and business concepts, and give them a curated list. And then I help them explore those options. And again, at all times, I'm on the same side of the table as my clients. All times, the only thing I care about is helping them learn. Does that help?
It does, absolutely. So what's the one thing that you wish people knew about about their franchise and the stuff that you just wish that before the first call they already knew it? What kind of things are those?
Oh, great question. I wish that they knew a bunch of things. First of all, that there's so much more than McDonald's and Subway. In our portfolio, only 4% of our franchises have anything at all to do with food. So there's huge variety of industries such as kids, seniors, home improvement, home restoration, fitness, travel, pets, things like that. I also wish that they knew that franchising is a lot less investment than most people think, that the majority of our franchises are 75,000, 100,000 to 200,000 total investment for the first year. And that franchising that offers a lot of funding options, that I can get most people funded if that's the right fit. So that's one thing. And other things too, if I could elaborate, because I know you asked for one, but I'm going to give you many. One of the things that I love too is that franchising really allows a lot more flexibility than people expect. We call it an 8-lane highway with bumpers. So there's tremendous flexibility. Those are a couple of things.
Yeah, those are great. I appreciate that. I always wonder, what are because you talked about only 5% is food. What are some of the more interesting but really obscure, if you will, franchise opportunities that are out there?
Oh, that's a great question. There are so many cool things out there. I'd have to, in terms of obscure ones, we had one that I don't think it's part of our portfolio anymore, but that got rid of geese. And because those geese and geese poop can be a real problem in so many places like parks and backyards and playgrounds and things like that. So we had something like that once. The others are fairly more mainstream. Lots of home improvement, home restoration. We have a franchise that's fairly new to our system that does crime scene cleanup. which is not pleasant, but so valuable to those families they're going through that. What are some others? Lots of pet stuff, really cool stuff around pets. Got some travel ones. We've just got a whole great variety of options.
Wow, they all sound like a lot of fun. I talked to a franchise broker, oh gosh, it was probably 2 years ago now, and they were talking about one that was essentially just sitting at your house making phone calls all day long. And it was, only like $5,000 or $10,000 to get in. I mean, that's not including all that it costs to allow you to be self-employed. But it was pretty interesting that they had something like that.
That's a different level that's a different sandbox that I don't play in. And I'm sure there are things like that. My general, very, very broadly speaking, certainly not making any kind of promotions or promises or anything else like that. Generally, the higher the investment, the more support you get. And the higher the investment, you have the potential to make more money. If it's a much higher investment, you're often investing in equipment, a location, things like that add to your assets that you can then turn around and sell. So there are certainly franchises and other things that are much, much less expensive than the ones in our system, but they're a different beast.
Absolutely. What are the expenses that people don't count for? That you really wish they were thinking of beyond just, of course, the franchise fees and, building costs and stuff like that.
I find that the people who invest in the marketing and invest in the infrastructure are the ones that do best. The clients that come in and say, I'm going to, bootstrap this. I'm going to make my system as lean as possible. Not always, but often have a much harder time, as well as just daily living expenses. It can be extremely nerve-wracking and scary sometimes to invest in a business as you're getting up and running. And the franchisor will help you really get clear on what are the things that they need, that the potential franchisee needs to get up and running. And I always encourage my clients to be very conservative and to really overestimate their expenses and underestimate their revenue. But every franchise is different, but almost invariably, marketing is going to be your biggest unexpected expense, probably.
That makes a lot of sense. What kind of net worth does a person really have to be in a, say, let's just use $100,000 investment type of a franchise?
Every franchise sets their own minimum net worth requirements, but typically 100K is a minimum. Oftentimes more than that. Really, more importantly, it's the cash on hand. That's the most important number. And again, we have great funding options. There are ways to access your 401k, for example, without paying penalties or taxes or interest. So that's a great way to get some access to cash. Of course, small business administration loans or home equity line of credit, and we have other options. So getting cash for a franchise, the only people I can't help are those that are unemployed, have no assets, don't own their own home, and have poor credit, in which case they should really be focusing on getting a job to increase their financial stability, and a franchise probably isn't right for them.
So give us a definition of the perfect kind of person that you would love to work with.
Oh, great. The biggest thing that I look for when I'm choosing to bring on a client is, do they have an open mind? I had a client recently who unfortunately I had to let go because he kept saying, you have to prove it to me. You have to prove it to me. I'm skeptical. And I have no problems with people being skeptical. Absolutely none whatsoever. Some of my favorite clients are very skeptical. But they need to have an open mind and a willingness to learn and a willingness to be temporarily uncomfortable. those are the clients that I work best with. The other aspect that I look for when I'm choosing clients to work with is, do they have that fire in the belly? If they're happy in their job, if they're happy in their lives, then I'm probably not a good fit for them. I work best with people who I mentioned before who know what they don't want, but aren't clear about what they do want. Those are the people that I love to work with.
Love that. So for somebody that wants to work with you, they'd love to go further and explore the options for them having a franchise. How can they work with you?
Great. Check me out on LinkedIn. My handle is Anna Brambila, so linkedin.com/in/Anna Brambila. Or check me out on my website, so abrambila.esourcecoach.com. So again, it's abrambila.esourcecoach.com. Those are the great places to go on. Check out my recommendations on my LinkedIn, especially. Half of the people who wrote nice things about me will never end up in a franchise. And I love that because it really proves that I only care about my client and what's best for my client, and I'm completely detached from the outcome.
Oh, I love that so much. So before we go, leave us with some words of encouragement for the person who's thinking about doing franchising that, maybe it is more possible than what they thought it was.
Why not explore? You're guaranteed to learn something. You'll learn about options and paths to success that you never knew existed. Whether they're right for you now or ever is irrelevant. Why not take 15 minutes, get on a calendar call with me, and let's find some time just to talk about your options. At the very least, again, you'll learn something new. I'm a 5th generation educator, so it's deep in my blood. And at the end of the day, the only thing I care about is somebody can say, so glad I met Anna because I learned about stuff and options that I never knew existed.
Oh, I love that. Anna, thanks so much for all that you do in the world and for taking such good care of your clients, and for being with us here on the show today.
Thank you, Steve, for all you do. I love your podcast and the good vibes you're putting out into the world, and it's such a necessary thing. So thank you for that.
Where are you meant to make an impact in the world? Don't stay stuck in a job just because it's the career. Maybe it is what you studied in school, but don't stay stuck. Make the impact that only you can make. Maximize while it's called today. Be the best version of yourself. Be all that you can be. All of those phrases that we've all heard, but I really want to encourage you to do, because you are meant to make an impact. And I hope that in listening today, you've learned some ways or come up with some new thoughts where you are meant to make an impact, because you are uniquely brilliant. You were created for a purpose, and the world the world needs you. I'm so grateful for the time that you've given us today to learn and talk about how to be a thriving entrepreneur. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate your time. I hope that until we're together again next time, you're happy, safe, warm, and loved, and that you have an amazingly great week.
Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today. If you want to get your question answered, send an email to questions@wehelpyouthrive.com. We look forward to you joining us again next time.
If you're an author who's on a mission, stand out with your brand out. Check this out, guys. Yep, everything's marketing, and marketing is everything. Your existing book can become a best-selling book, or even, hey, like mine, a #1 international best-selling book in 5 days. Listen, if your business isn't known by everybody, it's obscurity, and that's death, right? The same thing is true for your book. If you're not happy with the way your book is performing, you got that far and then it just fell off the face of the planet kind of feeling, go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Schedule a talk with Steve. It's risk-free, it's guaranteed, it's proven. We've done it thousands of times. What are you waiting for? Yes, yourbestsellertoday.com. This time next week, you could have a beautiful seal on your book and get the attention that you deserve. Reach the people that you came to serve. Come on now. What are you waiting for? Grab a pen. Here we go. All you got to do is book a call. Yourbestsellertoday.com. Go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Book a talk with Steve. It's proven. It's guaranteed. It's going to happen. All you have to do is say yes to your destiny.